Hey guys, my name is Jonathan Reich. I'm a licensed CPA in the state of Louisiana. And today I'm going to talk to y'all about something that's a little bit more somber than some of my other articles and videos. Typically as a CPA, I'll talk to you about like tax software or how to work to get a notary or something like that. But today it's going to be a little bit more heavy handed, and I'm not going to be doing any screen shares or anything. I just want to talk to the founders, the managers, the folks out there who don't really know what their next steps are. And so I've been there before, as early as this year. I mean, right now it's 8:14 at night and I'm still working. And so that conversation is it time to sell or shut down your business? So I'm a CPA. I have my own business. I also deal heavily with a handful of clients as well as try and like invest in real estate. So I, of all people, especially tonight, when it's as late as it is, understand what it's like to be working and just working and working and working. And eventually you ask yourself, is it time to hang up the mantle? And to me, that is not a sign of failure. A sign of failure, like, is not necessarily giving up what you've already done to move on to find the next best thing. Shutting it down, selling off your assets, and walking away with that burden off your shoulders is something that I think is tough at first, but like as soon as you do it, you're like, oh my gosh, why did I put this off for 3, 4, 5, 6 months? And that's just shutting it down. Let's say you're on the opposite end of the spectrum. Maybe you did it for 40 years. Maybe you did it for 5 years and you made a lot of money. You put food on the table. You have a nice house to show for it. Your bills are paid. You say, okay, I'm going to squeeze this lemon one last time, get the rest of the juice out, and sell everything. There's nothing wrong with that either. As long as you have an excellent transition plan to make sure that you're not, one, hurting your customers, two, and more importantly, in my opinion, hurting your employees, the people who got you there, and then three, hurting yourself. And so, having a good transition plan where, you notify your customers, you notify your vendors, you notify your staff, you work with the legal team, you work with an accounting team, can really help ease that transition. And so that's the basis of today's video. It's going to be relatively high level, but just a lot to chew on. And this is exceptionally close to home for me, just because like over the last 3 years, I think I've worked anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week, every week. And it catches up with you after a while. And if you're a founder or a manager who's wearing a lot of hats, maybe you took a startup to IPO, or maybe you have a startup that is just kind of floundering, like these are things that you're going to think about. And like I've quite literally, me personally, I've stayed awake at night, losing sleep over the thoughts of the next day, the next week's worth of work. And like, how am I going to get it all done? I don't have a team that can lean in the way I need them to because money's tight. I can't hire anyone. And so I understand what that's like. And I hope this video is resonating with the folks who may find themselves in a similar situation. So this is something that I'm facing. Like, I know that people who are way more robust out there than I am. I'm just some guy with an accounting degree and some credentials. Like, there are people out there who are building softwares, who are working in companies who are building people's homes and businesses. There are folks out there who are trying to provide services for everything from cleaning to carpentry to any blue collar or mechanical services, like stuff that requires real work. I like to pick on myself. What I do isn't like real work. I stare at a computer and make numbers up day after day. But it's a decision that a lot of business owners face, I think. And I think they get hung up on the two different paths that are necessary to take that load off your shoulders, especially if you're burnt out. So the first one, to me, to divest of the business, if you have consistent income, if you have consistent customers without a ton of churn, if you have low bills, you have operating cash in the bank, excuse me, you have a pretty good shot of selling your business for a real profit. You have something to get away with it. If you're running a plumbing company and you're showing positive EBITDA, and you can sell it for 3 times the net proceeds of the business. A couple $100,000 a year in net proceeds. Maybe you sell the business and the book of business for six, seven, $800,000, and you take that money, you roll it into something that you're more interested in. Maybe you're more interested in uh, working on classic cars, something that now money isn't what it once was. So that's always exciting when you can sell your business for kind of more than what you put into it, as long as you have that solid transition plan in place to make sure that no one's kind of getting the boot unexpectedly. But whenever you are selling your business, it's always good to have that checklist, but it's never a bad idea to consider, like, having some help. That's what staff is for. That's what your employees are for. Using like online brokers, there's a couple out there that I've used with clients when helping them divest of their businesses, like Quiet Light or Flippa. They can help make that process a little smoother depending on what you're looking for. I've never really had a ton of luck with like local law firms or anything like that, or local accounting firms, because everyone's going to have like a different valuation of like what the business is worth. So whenever you're dealing with like a business broker, you might have those in like a big city like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, but here in rural Louisiana, like you really are probably going to want to try and find a business broker online or someone out of one of those big cities who can help you with that. The other end of the stick is just hanging up the towel. Once again, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with hanging up the towel, especially if you made your nest egg. If it's time to just call it quits because you're tired of it, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a sign of failure, like, or even downsizing. That's another thing that a lot of clients like didn't realize was an option, to move from like a 6,000 square foot shop to a 1,500 square foot shop with only two bays, and sell all the crap that's around your building, so that you can kind of focus on the couple of customers who are good customers, who are going to pay on time, who are going to bring you easy work. Like, that way you can still kind of tinker. So you can downsize as well. You don't have to completely shut it down. But if you are shutting it down, once again, it's just as important to have that transition plan. It can go a lot smoother than you think. But what's most important, and what I have found, is don't prolong it. Say, okay, it's October 16th. I want to wind down my business by January 31st. Pick a date and stick to it. That's the most important thing, in my opinion. Pick a date and stick to it. Like, and then start letting people know the order of importance. First, let your staff know. Let them know that you're shutting down, and there will be retention bonuses, there'll be severances, or maybe there's a handoff plan. You'll give them references to any jobs that they have. Stuff like that really means a lot, and goes a long way, because no one ever wants to hear that they're losing their job. So have a handoff ready to go for your staff. Then let your customers know. Then let your vendors know. Make sure your vendors, you pay them in full. You return any unused supplies. So you can get credits on your account. Let your customers know, hey, if you need anything from me, get it done in the next 3 months. And then talk with your accountants and lawyers. Make sure there's no loose ends on your contracts. Make sure that you're not going to be opening up to a tax liability next year or anything of that. And then lock the doors. Sell the building, or turn in your lease. Sell the equipment. If you have anything left over, you probably came out better than most folks. So, and then you can move on to the next thing, or enjoy golfing and fishing. So it doesn't have to necessarily be like just this big awful decision. Like, people move all the time. I know I had a customer or a client, I should say, who managed a coffee shop, and she opened a brand new coffee shop in 2021. And she said, well, people are coming out of their houses now that COVID's kind of over. Well, and then we had the Omicron variant, and I think she was open for maybe 6 months, and she drained all of her savings. And she said, I'll try again next time. And she went back to work at her W-2 job, and pays her bills, and she moved on. It was a lesson learned. So, anything from 6 months to the worst time ever to open a restaurant or food service industry to 40 years. There's nothing wrong with either selling or hanging it up. So anyway, guys, this one was really like personal to me, just because I've been there and I totally get it. So I hope listening and having some input on kind of what you can do in your situation, especially if you're burnt out, can kind of alleviate some of that stress off your shoulders. And hopefully you either decide to sell and you can make a little bit of money, or you feel a little bit better about maybe just hanging it up, or even taking a break, So anyway, guys, like I said, a little bit heavier topic. Really enjoyed this one though, and to be able to let it all out. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.